Ex-husband's wife says I'm ruining her family since I refuse to let her B.lly my daughter. Updated. Story 1. Final update. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my ex-husband's wife at my daughter's birthday party because she told me not to? Original post. I, 32 female. Have a daughter, 9 going on 10 female. With ex-husband, 36 male. We divorced when she was 3. He then remarried with one of his co-workers, let's call her M. They also have a son together, 6 male. My daughter's birthday is in 9 days. I reviewed with my daughter's things for her birthday like the theme, the cake. Here's the issue. When we were going through the guest list, she looked anxious when I asked what's wrong, and she told me that she did not want to invite M. I asked her why, and she explained to me that M would make weird comments sometimes around other parents. For example, when M would pick her up from her dance lesson, she would hear M say things like, that is why I prefer boys, girls only like pink and tutu, calling her a brat, and other things. Every time her brother, M and XH's kid, would do something to annoy her like breaking her toys, calling her names, starting a fight, M would always defend her son and punish her every time and say, boys will be boys, or some CRP like that. I asked about her dad, and she said that he does that when her dad is around, but he is always in his office, so it is like a free pass. Later on, I called her father. He asked for the date of the party, her real birthday is a school day. I told him that his wife was not invited, and I think I was on the loudspeaker because I heard M screaming at me, saying that I destroyed her family. So am I the a-hole for not inviting my ex-husband's wife to my daughter's birthday party because she told me not to? Okay, just for precision. My daughter's half-sibling is 4 years younger than her. She was born in April, while he was born in March the next year after the divorce. He just turned 6, but it is true that we discovered because my ex-husband told me he was in love with M and wanted to confess. We have a 50-50 custody, he has a busy job. My daughter explained that she never told me or her dad that she was scared of ruining her father's marriage because he seems so happy. Now for comments before reading. Story 1 comments. The update, not a hole. Ideally, you want everyone to get along and have your daughter and her half-sibling to have a relationship, but you can't have that if your husband's wife is being verbally abusive to your daughter. Dad needs to intervene and insist his wife behaves and gets counseling to address her toxic jealousy of his daughter. I totally agree with that. Yeah, Dad needs to step in or he's going to risk ruining his relationship with his daughter. Sounds like it's already on that track anyway, but Op really needs to get him to understand that this is only for her daughter's benefit. If you do the math on the timing, Dad already risked ruining things by cheating. 3 to 4 year age gap between the kids, and the divorce happened when the daughter was 3, so stepmom was already pregnant. Not a hole. Should not be invited to your daughter's life at all. You should discuss this with your ex-husband immediately. If he is unaware of this, he must know. If he knows and doesn't support your daughter, then he should change or get out of her life as well. This bullying will seriously traumatize her. Now for the updates. Story 1 Update 1. Update 1. So a lot has happened. First of all, I met my ex for lunch alone. I explained everything that my daughter told me. At first, he was defensive and told me that she was overreacting. I replied that even if that were true, his relationship with his daughter is at risk. I gave him a choice. Fix the problem, or I'll go back to court for more custody. Friday, when I came to pick up my daughter at his house, I talked to her in private, and she told me that her dad spent time with her, picking her up from school and activities, helping her with homework, and playing with her. Her IM then told me that she accepts not going to the party but still wanted to see my daughter B.lly out her candles on her actual birthday. She baked a cake and asked her, my daughter, if she was okay with doing it before leaving. She seemed okay with it, so we gathered around the cake, my daughter, M, X, and half-brother. When my daughter blew out the candles, M Jr. decided that the good thing to do would be to smash my daughter's face into the cake. To be honest, if this was not a kid, I would be in prison. He and M burst out laughing while my daughter was crying. M then told her that she was being dramatic and emotional. We, M, X, and I got into an argument, and to my surprise, my ex-husband was on my side, saying that it was not okay. While arguing, I noticed that my daughter was not there, so I left to check on her. I helped her clean herself, and then we left for my house. I tried to cheer her up, but she was still a little sad. The party went well. Her dad came, and during the party, I told him that I want more custody because of his wife bullying. So yeah, I will update you if anything happens, and I think you should. I agree with that. Precision. Some of you asked questions about my daughter's reaction. My daughter is really shy and a silent kid except for me and her dad. She does not talk unless spoken to or if you bring up a subject that she likes. When something upsets her, she stays silent and cries. It's always been like that, and it is what she did, started crying and going to her room. Update 2. Hi, I saw that many of you asked for an update. After the cake incident, I asked her questions about whether M, half-brother, had ever laid hands on her, played such pranks on her, or behaved inappropriately. She told me no, explaining that the fights with her half-brother are mainly him annoying her. I also inquired if anyone else from both sides had made her feel uncomfortable in any way, and again she said no. Since my last post, she has been seeing her psychiatrist twice a week. The bullying apparently started about 2 months ago. I don't know if it is related, although I'm sure it is, but it was also around that time that M had a miscarriage. To be honest, I felt like a terrible mom. I did not see the signs, and I'm trying to fix everything. My ex-husband, guess who showed up at my door at 10 p.m. He called me last night, was outside, and said he wanted to talk. I let him in, and because I don't trust him, I really don't, I recorded the whole conversation with his consent. He told me that since the party, he's been thinking about what to do, and yesterday, told them about my desire for more custody. From what he told me, she said that it was not such a bad idea because my daughter was not fitting into their family dynamic. They started to argue, and at one point, she started cursing me and my daughter. Apparently, I'm a sneaky B-ward who is bitter about her affair with my ex-husband. She described my daughter as a spoiled brat princess who needs correction, and now he has to choose between which woman he loves the most. This is where he had the click. He left the house, drove around, and then showed up at my place. He was going to stay at a friend's house to think about his relationship with him. Our daughter will stay with me during the week and visit him on the weekends. I told him that if he's going to get back together with him, I am continuing with full custody, but if they divorce, it will depend on his custody for his son because I don't want him around my daughter. He agreed. That's it. Thank you for all the support. Final update. Hi again, you all asked for an update, here you go. My ex-H earlier in the week, he asked if he could come by, saying that he had something important to tell me. He told me that last Friday, M Jr. got into trouble at school for cursing at a girl. Long story short, he confessed feelings to a girl, the niece of the director. She rejected him. Apparently, he started shouting insults at her that no 6-year-old should know. Let alone say, because of this incident, in our daughter's situation, he decided to divorce me. She would be served the divorce papers next week. He is also going to pay me in therapy because he still wants her to have a relationship with her son. We, daughter, and I will also be attending family therapy together. My daughter, she is happier now, and that's the only thing that matters to me. For the summer, I'm going to take her to Japan to see my side of the family. Decision 3. I am still going for full custody of my daughter with visitation on the weekend if, and only if, Junior's behavior improves. I will let him and my daughter interact. He, my ex, is going for full custody of his son. I still don't trust my ex. I'm keeping my eyes on him and how he will raise my daughter. I don't know why people would assume that I'm going to be nice with him. Am I polite? Yes. Nice? No. I am not going for more custody because he wants a son. Because he recently got a promotion so works more. He doesn't have the time to take care of her daughter on the weekdays so I take her. Someone asked me, are races for some reason? I am Japanese like my ex, and M is white, French. Like I said, I'm Japanese but was raised in France so French is my first language, then Japanese, then English. Sorry for any mistakes. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for story 2 wanting to reunite with my mother even though she's the one who had the affair? Plus, update original post. So, I, Mel, was born in Port Said in Egypt when my mother was 21 and my father was 38. My father had invested in my grandfather's business and helped stop it from failing, and got married to was pretty much his reward. It sounds icky to think about, but that's how it is in places like that sometimes. When I was 10, my mom admitted to my dad that she's been having an affair with a guy named Sayed when I was 8 years younger than her, and asked for a divorce. Somehow my dad got actual proof of the divorce beyond just her words, and from what I understand, infidelity can be treated as a serious crime in Egypt, so he got her to agree to a divorce where she gave up full rights to me in exchange for complete silence from him. Later that year, my dad and I moved to Canada, and my mom and Sayed got married. My mom would write me letters for a bit and mail presents, so I knew that she and Sayed got married, moved to Cairo where they both got jobs, and they had a daughter. From what I've been able to tell from the letters is that she's happy, and I don't really ever remember her being that way. Eventually, the letters became less frequent, and now I get like 3 a year. I got one earlier this month where she told me how proud she was that I was going to graduate from a Canadian school, and it made me cry. After graduation in July, I'm going to Egypt with my uncle to see family, and my girlfriend is going too because her family is from some city in the Sinai. I told my uncle that I want to take some time to go and see my mother, and he seemed uncomfortable with the idea because to him, the idea of the trip was to introduce me and my girlfriend's families to each other so we can get married after university. He talked to my dad about it, and my dad told me I'd be wrong to go. My dad pointed out that while he had taken full custody and may have been wrong to do so, my mother had never done anything other than write me a letter. She'd never tried to add me on social media, she'd never come to Canada to visit, she hardly ever phoned anymore. When I tried to argue, he started talking about how if she wanted to be with Sayed, she would have divorced the right way, and what she did showed that she didn't think about me. When I told him that I still want to meet her, he huffed and said he was disappointed and seemed very sad afterwards. I know she really hurt him, but am I the a-hole for wanting to see her now? For the Story 2 update. Thankfully, I didn't make a big post, so I got a few comments which were focused on being helpful. I did go with my uncle to Egypt, and I did meet with my girlfriend's family, and I think that I won them all over. We're not formally engaged or anything, but we will be in about a year. Egypt is a lot different than I remember as a kid. People are a lot less open and more guarded. My girlfriend's family thought that because I was from Canada, I'd be partial to the MB because apparently immigrant kids are. It was really weird, but I did go to Cairo to see my mom even though I promised my dad that I wouldn't see her. I know that what she did was wrong, and I do resent her for doing it, but I don't want to be the guy who didn't see his mom at all when he was a kid. I mean, if I'm getting engaged next year, then I won't be a kid then. I'll actually have to grow up. I don't know, it's a weird thought process, but it's mine. So, I convinced my uncle, and we went to Cairo. He called my mom to tell her that he wanted to meet her, but he didn't tell her that I was coming because he didn't want the word to somehow reach back to my dad. They don't talk, so that was weird, but I didn't bring it up because I was happy that he agreed. My mom works in finance for one of the biggest film studios in Cairo, so she took the day off when we went, but her husband was at work, and her daughter was at school. She's doing some kind of summer class or something. We went early morning so we could leave before they came back. It's weird because my mom isn't how I remember her exactly. She has short hair now, and she looks really young. She wasn't wearing anything traditional, and weirdest of all is how tall she is. She was almost as tall as me and was taller than my uncle. I mean, obviously, as a kid, I thought she was tall, but we all do then, but she's legitimately like 6'1" or something. She let me and my uncle in when we went, but she didn't recognize me at first, and it was awkward, so I didn't say anything, but then she suddenly did, and she hugged me and broke down crying and kept saying thank you to my uncle. And she actually fell because it was like her legs couldn't hold her up, and I had to. My uncle excused himself and said that he was going to meet with some friends in the city, and it was nice being alone, and when we were, I started crying too, and I think it was because she kept calling me by all the baby names she had for me in Arabic and saying things like, "My heart is back." After we both calmed down, I asked her why she stopped writing, and she told me that she started hating herself for not being in my life and started believing that I hated her, that she doesn't have social media so she couldn't find me online, and that email wasn't personal. She eventually tried something drastic, and her husband got her mental health, which brought her to a good place, but it led to her writing a lot less. She was sad when I told her that I would be leaving when my uncle came back because we'd be going back to Canada in a few days, but she said it didn't matter because I was still in her heart. She promised to write more again. She also said that she knew that she couldn't come to Canada for my engagement and my marriage when it happens, but pretty much begged me to livestream them all, and that way my dad won't know. She barely told me anything about her because she kept making me tell her about things that I've done, but she did tell me about her job and all the actors that she's met. Ked when my uncle came back, and I had to go, and we cried again, but I felt better about it even though my uncle made me promise not to tell my dad. Since then, she's been writing me a lot more, and we've been emailing as well. She actually sent me a video of her and a top actress in Egypt where she got the actress to say hi to me and my girlfriend. I don't know how many of you are going to read this giant thing that I wrote, but I am thankful for the few of you that helped me out and helped me make up my mind. I guess I have felt a lot better since then because I know that my mom loves me. Story 3. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for being upset my wealthy best friend wouldn't let me borrow $5? My best friend and I have been friends for nearly 7 years. When we first met, she was struggling financially and lived paycheck to paycheck. At one point, her car broke down, and she had no transportation to work, so I would let her borrow my car and never ask for gas money or anything in return. At the time, I was financially secure and was happy to help her out. As the years went by, my financial situation changed, and just like her, I began living paycheck to paycheck. By this time, she had started dating a guy she met online who revealed to her a few months into dating that he was a millionaire. They married shortly afterwards, and suffice to say that she has not had to struggle since. There have been a few times that I've had to ask to borrow money, which I have always paid back. It's usually not much, less than $25 or so each time, and she would always oblige with no problems. Until recently, the last couple of times I asked to borrow money, she said that she didn't have it, which I found odd. But then, I asked to borrow $5, and she said the same thing. I thought it was odd that she told me that she didn't have $5 to spare. I know that ever since she got married, her brothers and a couple of other friends have been trying to take advantage of her newfound wealth by asking to borrow money they never paid back and having her bail them out of situations they put themselves in that have cost her a lot of money. I started to think that maybe I'd forgotten to pay her back money that I owed at some point, so I reached out to her to ask if that was the case. When she told me that that wasn't the case, as in I had always paid her back, I told her I felt hurt because it felt like if I needed her help with something, I used the example if I ended up in jail, that I couldn't reach out to her for help because she couldn't even let me borrow $5. She replied and said that just like her brothers, I needed to learn how to budget my money better and that she can't be the one to bail everyone out. She said that when she was struggling, she had to work multiple jobs and did what she had to do. I replied and said that it was not fair for her to lump me in with her brothers as I've never done anything to take advantage of her, and I never would have said something like that to her when I let her borrow my car. And anytime she would ask to borrow money when she was struggling, I told her that I loved her but that I was ending the conversation. She replied that this is why money and friends should never mix. Since then, she has reached out and said I didn't deserve that conversation last night. I hope you know that, to which I have not replied to and have no plans to. I am deeply hurt that she feels that I was in the wrong, but I do not think that I was the a-hole here. I understand that I'm not entitled to anyone's money, borrowed or not, but when she was in my shoes, I did everything I could to help her out. I can understand that if I had asked to borrow a large amount of money, but I literally asked for $5. That's all for today. If you're